Back in my day, the Elder Scrolls Online had meaning. The choices you made mattered, and the payoff at the end was worth it.
I mean, it can't really be that bad, can it? Look at my drip. I look so cool.
Typical millennial, you only care about shiny colors and clicks and whistles in your rap music. The game used to matter, I tell ya.
Okay, boomer, enjoy the crabs. Hey everyone, it's Spopes. I guess I'm showing my age here, but I still remember the way that ESO was. I've been playing the Elder Scrolls Online since 2015, and back in my day, the game was way different. That's not to say that a lot of the changes over the years haven't been good, but to this day, I still sometimes pine for the way things were pre-2017, before the Tamriel update. That update introduced inherent problems to ESO that have never actually been fixed. And in this video, I'm going to explain what happened and why it's still a problem. Before we get into this unhinged rant, please remember to like, hype, and sub, and consider upgrading your support with a membership, a merch purchase, or a donation. So back when the Elder Scrolls Online first launched, it was a forced subscription game. It was only on PC and you had to subscribe to play it. That changed early on in 2015 and ushered in what I consider to be the golden era of ESO. The way the game used to be is when you chose an alliance, you were locked into that alliance's area until you got to the end game. And the end game, believe it or not, was actually Cyrodiil. The whole point of the game, the whole narrative arc, was you progress through each of the zones in your alliance area in turn, with each one getting harder as you went, gradually learning the game and accruing power until you were strong enough to go fight for the Ruby Throne in Cyrodiil. Baked into the game was this meaningful narrative, where you were grounded as a character within a particular alliance, and the whole goal of progressing through the game and reclaiming your soul from Molag Bal was to eventually enter PvP and fight other players for dominance. Now, while I do understand why this changed, that doesn't really affect the way I feel about it. Simple, little things, like going from one zone to another and it suddenly being harder. For instance, I have a very clear memory of going into Malleable Tor too early, or it may have been Greenshade. Again, this was over a decade ago. But all I know is I was wandering around and I came across a troll who absolutely decimated me. So like any RPG, I knew that meant I had to go back and get stronger before I progressed. Nowadays, all content in ESO is equally difficult. Everything is dumbed down to the lowest common denominator, essentially. So you no longer have that feeling of progression. You can be on your alliance's starter island or in the latest DLC zone, and there's absolutely no difference in terms of how combat feels or its difficulty. It's all homogenized, it's all exactly the same. And on top of that, there is no endgame chase, like there once was in terms of being powerful enough to take on Cyrodiil. You just kind of aimlessly wander through the game, gaining power for no clear purpose. I do like how this makes the game more open-ended, but I don't like how it completely eliminates the structure. To this day, the Elder Scrolls Online has an ongoing problem where new players have no idea what to do. The efforts the devs have made to smooth out the onboarding process really haven't been very effective either. They've thrown in some golden pursuits here and there for new and returning players, but the tutorial system is still very lacking, and lacking in one specific way. What I'm talking about is there's no explanation of what you should do in the game story-wise. New players often don't even understand that the story of your alliance zones progresses from zone to zone, where, for instance, in Aldmeri Dominion, the story arc of Prince Naaman carries through from zone to zone. Originally, the game would very carefully walk you through the quest line in your starter zone, and then it would direct you to go on to the other zones in your alliance area. This provided a sense of overall cohesion that immersed you in the game and made you feel like what you were doing was meaningful. Now, I do also understand so much DLC content has been added over time that they didn't want to gate behind having to do the whole original storyline. And also for existing players, the grind of having to go through the original storyline with every single new character was definitely getting boring. But in general, I kind of feel like Zoss threw the baby out with the bathwater here. Homogenizing the game so you could basically do whatever you wanted was good in a lot of ways, but it also made the game confusing to new players and entirely disrupted the sense of narrative meaning that you had in the early days. So for a little bit of background here, in 2017, the Tamriel update came out in ESO with update 12. This completely changed the structure of the game. I remember there was a guy I played with back in the day who was absolutely apocalyptic about this. He thought it'd be the end of the game, that it would die after this, and it definitely didn't, but something about the game did die. What Tamriel did was it made it possible for you to basically do any zone in the game in any order you wanted. It was no longer more difficult as you progress through the zones, and you could go to zones outside your alliance before you completed your alliance's storyline. This made the new DLCs in the game more accessible, but it did eliminate one of the core centers of meaning in the Elder Scrolls Online. These days, players need external guides like the ones I created to even understand what the narrative progression is in the game. There's no longer a sense of, for instance, okay, here I am in Canarchy's Roost. Obviously, I need to go to Auradon next, then Grotwood, then Greenshade, then Reaper's March, and then ideally Cyrodiil. See, what this also did was it ultimately removed the meaning of Cyrodiil from the game. In the early days of the game, getting to Cyrodiil was part of the main story of ESO. The whole narrative arc led you to this final battle in Cyrodiil for the Ruby Throne. Becoming Emperor actually had meaning within the context of the story of the game. There was, of course, the separate Harborage storyline, but even that heavily dealt in themes of the conflict between the alliances, the temporary truce they came to defeat Molag Bal. But then it was implied the whole point of getting your soul back from Molag Bal was so you could then fight for your alliance in Cyrodiil. It was all neatly interconnected in the manner of an actual RPG. When Tamriel came out, that was the beginning of the theme park model for ESO, where sure, lots and lots of activities have been added over the years, there's a ton more to do in the game, but the central narrative focus has been all but eliminated, or relegated to an afterthought. The overall ethos now seems to be just kind of go do whatever you want, and if you really want to immerse yourself in the storyline of the game, essentially good luck. Like I mentioned, there is no tool out there that tells you how to do this. You have to rely on external guides. To me, this seems like it'd be a very easy and quick fix, where the devs could put in like a classic storyline menu within the journal or within the achievements, something that would very carefully direct you through what you need to do. But even if that were to be added to the game, the whole feeling of getting stronger for a purpose is still gone. Sure, you can progress from Auradon to Reaper's March, from Glenumbra to Bankerai, but the fact remains that the monsters in the final zone have the same difficulty as the monsters in the first zone. This issue has kind of been addressed with the implementation of the new challenge difficulty system, but still you have to opt into that as a player. It's not like Auradon is inherently easier than Reaper's March. It's just there's now a toggle in your character menu that will make all monsters easier or harder. So the main two issues I have with how the game is today are that the underlying narrative meaning of progressing through the quests in ESO is completely gone. And also along with it, you miss out on a huge portion of the content of the game. For instance, I was just reminiscing recently about the Wilder King questline in Greenshade. Even though it's been years and years since I've done this, that questline has become an indelible part of my memory. I don't remember the details, but I do remember the Wilder King. I remember the bewitched or amnesiac high elf woman. There were some really poignant narrative themes to that made it so memorable I still haven't forgotten about it 10 years later. But now, countless quests are very easy to miss in the game. Generally, players will just gravitate to the newest and shiniest object in the room. So for instance, right now, it's the Thieves Guild and Sheogorath questlines. But that just highlights one of the inherent problems I'm talking about. How do you even know who Sheogorath is if you aren't being properly directed to do the Mages Guild questline? How do you know what the Thieves Guild is if you've never done Hugh's Bane? Now, the Mages Guild questline is a side quest, but it was also baked into the inherent narrative meaning of the early game in the Elder Scrolls Online. You were stuck around in Auradon or Glenumbra leveling up, didn't know what to do. Sure, you're going to check out that huge building and figure out what quests are in it. You need to level up after all. So you're going to go figure out who Sheogorath is, you're going to progress to that quest line. It all made sense to do and it immersed you in the game. And when it comes to DLC quests like the Hugh's Bane Thieves Guild, it simply made sense to do that right after you were done with the main story questline. Personally, I don't see how it'd be too hard to provide an actual sense of progression here, where maybe you wouldn't be locked into your main story questline, but it would at least tell you what to do, where to go after you're done with what. And then there should be a tool or a system in the game that directs you regarding which DLCs you should tackle in which order. At this point, it's just this narrative hodgepodge, essentially devoid of any real meaning. There are all sorts of quest lines about saving the world from Daedric threats, etc. But you can do those interchangeably and in between the main story quest. So your whole sense of character progression, the evolving story of the world is really disrupted. Essentially, now there's just so much content in ESO, and may I say good content. In my opinion, almost everything that's been added to the game over the years is actually good and worth playing. But there's so much of it that new players have no idea what to do. And longtime players like me feel disconnected from the original meaning of the game. Getting your soul back from Molag Bal, progressing through the zones and going to Cyrodiil, that has been relegated to basically a role-playing function in the game. You can do it if you're a hardcore role player and want to have that experience, but there's no more meaning to it. And along with getting rid of that meaning, the Elder Scrolls Online has also basically stopped being an RPG at heart, and now it's basically a theme park or sandbox MMO, which wouldn't really be a problem if that new model wasn't obscuring the inherent richness of the original storyline of the game. I think about how that's how I was originally immersed into ESO. My formative experiences with the game centered around that feeling of immersion I got from progressing through the alliance zones like you progress through the story of an actual RPG. Players who never experienced that are really missing out. And ZOS is really missing out with engaging new players with the game because they have no conception of that underlying narrative meaning. Essentially, I think my friend was right, and something about ESO did really die with one Tamriel. Whether it's possible to resurrect it now is really up to the developers. Now, there's been a lot of complaining in this video, but I do want to provide some actual suggestions as to how this could be improved. I did touch on this briefly earlier on, but I do believe there should be some kind of system in the game. Call it the classic ESO experience system or something like that, where you are guided through the original narrative arc and you are eventually sent to Cyrodiil. With the implementation of challenge difficulty, this would actually be a lot easier. In each Alliance region, there are 4 or 5 zones. So say in the first zone, you are automatically set to Adventurer. When you progress to the next zone, it goes up to Seasoned. For the next zone, Master. And by the final zone, you're at Vestige difficulty, preparing you for the difficulty you'll face against other players in Cyrodiil. Instead of coming out with these endless golden pursuits for new players that really do nothing to immerse you in the game and just give you a bunch of shiny gadgets, this is what I feel like the team of the Elder Scrolls Online should be focusing on. Not only would this re-highlight existing assets in the game without actually having to make anything new, but it would provide new players with anchoring within the world of ESO, emotionally connecting them with the world and making their likelihood of retention much higher. This is such an obvious win for the studio that it's really hard to comprehend why they haven't done anything like this. Why they've essentially left the main story quest lines to rot, just focusing on the latest, shiniest, newest stuff. Now, from everything we've heard from ZOS, it does seem like there's a pivot ongoing, where they stopped doing the yearly chapter model. They are focusing on at least visually refreshing the old zones. So it's entirely possible there's already a system like this in the works that they'll reveal pretty soon. If so, that'd be great, but I haven't heard a peep about it. There's no indication anything like this is coming anytime soon. But I feel like if this kind of system I'm talking about were implemented, it would add so much value to the game. And it's actually more possible than ever now with challenge difficulty. But yes, in some way, the original storyline of the game needs to be highlighted and enshrined for what it is. Not like it's really that amazing in all respects, but what is amazing about it to me is how it originally immersed me and many others in the world of Tamriel in a way that the current configuration of the game really just doesn't do. It's not like I actually pine for the pre-1 Tamriel days. So much has been added to the game since then that is amazing. It would be an absolutely enormous, gigantic step back to actually just revert the game. Instead of reverting, I feel like we need to go forward. We need to somehow elevate the original story to its rightful place, thereby immersing new players the same way old players were, while also retaining a focus on all the amazing content that's been added over the years. This is ultimately what I feel like is the biggest problem in ESO these days. Sure, there are tons of them, like PvP being broken and unbalanced, the stuck in combat bugs still being there, connectivity and server issues, etc. But when it comes to the fundamental structure of the game, what it means to be an RPG, this is the way the Elder Scrolls Online is broken more than any other. And the value that would be added to the game by fixing this problem is so immense that I'm just amazed ZOS is still sleeping on it. In the comments, let us know what you think. Is this the biggest problem in the game? Did you play pre-1 Tamriel, or did you only join ESO afterward? Either way, would you like to experience these quest lines the way they were meant to be experienced? Would you like to go back and experience the main story in your Alliance zone either again or fresh for the first time? Do you also find that the new structure of the game is kind of confusing to navigate and leaves out a huge portion of the best content in ESO? Do let us know your thoughts and reactions in the comments. And also, before you go, please just support the channel by liking, hyping, and subbing. And I would really appreciate it if you upgrade your support with a Spopes Army membership. Plans are affordable and come with great perks. If you checked out my merch either below the video or on my Fourth Wall site, or if you left me a donation, again, either on Fourth Wall or here on YouTube. Your support means everything to me, and I'm so grateful, but I'm even more grateful to God. So we're going to finish up the video as always with a prayer to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Lord Jesus, thank you for the Elder Scrolls Online and all the amazing experiences we've had in the game over the years. Lord, please do inspire ZOS to make the game even better by implementing some form of the suggestions I laid out today. Help them recapture the value of the original quest lines, draw new players into the game, and validate all the time that us old players have put into it over the years. Lord, I thank you for my community. I thank you for making it possible for me to make this video today. Please do bless my community and my channel. Draw us all closer to your side and lead us away from sin and temptation. Lord, I give you all glory for this video and for my channel. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Thanks for watching until the end. Before you go, please remember to like, hype, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, turn on notifications, because I'll be back soon with new content.